I am Eon, and it's time to look ahead at August 2025 Fantasy Preview video. Arbiter Miniatures, Halflings Part 2. Looks like he's just taken down a white wizard. Or maybe not so white. Artisan Guild has given us a preview. They do have a trailer out on their YouTube channel. This is Brock Bronzewind for Raid at the Temple of Zephyra. Here's Roshan Stormwave. Some Cliff Harpies. And there's a look at pretty much everything you'll be getting for the month of August. We'll be coming back and looking at this in more detail. All of these, obviously. BattleYak this month is doing, I forget, I did not write these down. Been trying to get this together, and sorry, folks, about that. A lot of chitin on that armor. The Beholder Miniatures has given us a look. I believe these are some of their elves. And dwarf on Ram would probably be the right term there. And, well, they also have a new welcome pack. So you can kind of get a good sampling of a lot of different miniatures from their line and the different armies that they do. Belksasar 3D Print has given us a couple of teaser images, and they've also started to show off everything here. Now, these are often not safe for work in this particular one. So there's, and this is all Living Pestilence. So these are a little chaotic. So Forbidden Temptation, Herald of Putrefaction. There's some Pestilence Soldiers, Pestilence Bearers, and they all look pregnant. Pestilence Harvester, and a Stingin Pestilence with the Rider, apparently, as well as a Rotten Vessel. Yeah, so all Chaos fans, there you go. Bestiarum Miniatures has given us a couple of preview arts, the Exalted Talons, as well as the First Concubine. It would also appear, if I understand correctly, that this is a set that was released around 2020-2021, the Court of Balazar, and that they are going to be kind of refreshing this set. They said that some of the models were too fragile, so they're going to be kind of resculpting them and bringing them back up to their standards, which I think is not a bad plan. Bite the Bullet Studios has Iconic Monsters Part 2. And there's the throwback pack you'll be getting in August. So there's a Baylor and Omnizu. There's Palerian and Cybriex. Is Palerian like the clown from Spawn, that movie? I don't know. There's a Tarask and an Annis Hag. I don't know what the Annis part of that is. There's a Manticore, which, wow, that's what a face you have, Manticore. And Slad. There's a Boule, open mouth and closed mouth. Or, I guess they could have put burrowing or above ground. And then there's Meredith the Dancing Merilith, and she apparently comes in an exotic form as well. Blackcrest Miniatures. I can't speak tonight, so sorry, folks. There's Harengon. Was this like here and gone? Harengon? Is it a play on that? They're probably pretty fast, so it would not be a bad pun. Claudio Casini Art has multi-race necromancers. A Foxfolk Wizard. Apologies, I kind of messed up their face there, but a Rhinoceros Folk Monk, and a Crowfolk or an Aarakocra, bird folks. Mordecai in that, in his unaltered form for Dungeon Crawler Carl. Yeti the Abominable Snowman. I think he's been seeing him on videos with Bigfoots recently, haven't I? Anyway, Claybreeze Creation, a lot of AI video things have been doing that. If you aren't familiar with my attempt at a reference there. These are Gore Riders. These are Raging Chariots. Different weapon options on there. And this is a Destroyer. Are these like Beastmen? Maybe. CobraMode has given us just this little hint of a preview. Crippled God Foundry has several things we need to talk about here. First off, they have released this free miniature on their website in tribute to the late Ozzy Osbourne. So they say, rest in peace, Prince of Darkness, the grandfather of heavy metal. He has been given this tribute miniature that you can pick up for free. So I think it was very kind of them to honor his legacy there. They have a couple other tribute models they've done as well. Since this is a preview video, I did want to point out that they have done most of the rest of the year, not quite all of it, but in July they did the Jungles of Chult, and August we'll be doing Denizens of Hell, the Lord of Hatred. September is Night Masks, which I remember as an assassin's group in the Forgotten Realms, but probably similar theme. In October, they have the Coven, as well as Monstrober, which is their 9th anniversary for that, and then November to be decided. So there's the Denizens of Hell, Lord of Hatred. There's a temple that you can put together as you would like. There's some Claw Vipers, Possessed Cultists, Thorned Hulks. There's Mephisto and Morgan the Druid. I'm assuming he is attempting to fight here. There's Morgan the Druid in a slightly different form as well. I feel like they're going for like a Diablo theme here. Fetish Demons would definitely kind of fit that mold as well. Baboon Demon, maybe not directly Diablo there, but I could see it. And some more. Here's just some more detail of the Temple of Hatred terrain pieces that you get. Dice Heads is showing us that we'll be getting the Steam Clank Coven. We'll look at these figures in more detail pretty soon. DM Stash is doing Drow from Beyond. There's Vazaric, Lord of the Eldraith. That is a different style Drider. Is it a Drider? I think it's a Drider. It's a Drider, right? Mantharok, the Forlorn Monstrosity. Monstrosity is about right, yeah. Horus of the Far Sphere, Alkin Ranger. There's Dirthana of the Void's Embrace, the Ascended Spider Sorceress. There's Gruthton, the Dark Dwarf Pugilist. The Blessed, which are servants of Vazarac. And Ilnia Vasrith, Paladin of the Moon's Sanctum. If they could fit one more moon on her costume, I'd be impressed. There's Zira Elinari, Assassin of the Waxing Moon. That's an interesting effect on her face. I realize it's mostly just blank, but it does look like a piece of cloth covering. There's a Defiled Sanctum of Glenbelly, Destroyed Drow Moon Shrine. There's Uxus the Reborn, a Drow Lunar Monk. He comes in a bust form as well. And there's some other models we'll look more at in the month of August. The Dragon Trapper's Lodge has given us a look at Throne of the Serpent Queen and Dwarshka Warsmiths Part 1. That might actually be more sci-fi than fantasy. So for Throne of the Serpent Queen, we see the Anointed Serpent Queen and the Queen's Assassins. We see the Snake Enthema. I can't say that word. That's just my tongue, sorry. Rattlesnake Hydra. Serpent Men. Giant Constrictor Snake. Hooded Viper Raptors. That's different. An Ophidian Chimera. Wow, let's make them snakes, and let's make everything a snake, right? For the Dvorshka Warsmiths, we have the Tsar and Dvorshka Commander, Hammer Mech and Incinerator Jump Jet, Boris the Gearsmith and Dvorshka Mech. And I would like to point out that they have a Frontier coming, Operation Inferno, for Age of Fantasy with OPR. So be sure to check that out. Go in and sign up. Maybe get a free model if they give you one. Dragon's Lake Miniatures is doing Demons for the month of August. Here we see the Apostles of Ruin and their command group over on the right. The Seed of Putrefaction and Desecrators. Here are some Hellhounds. Very elaborate heads on those things. And a Crimson Lord on Butcher. And here's a Crimson Lord on Desolation. Duncan Shadow is very prolific. I believe I've captured everything properly, but I was in a hurry, so I could have made some mistakes. For August, you should be getting Gnoll Savages. This comes as a multi-part kit. Sheepfolk with rifles and crossbows. Gnolls that are pre-posed, so you don't have to build them. Rat Ogre in multi-part kit, and a Gnoll Cook. These are Were-Jackals pre-posed, not to be confused with Gnolls. There's Atropal. I meant to put this character in the science fiction video because it just reminds me of the first Total Recall movie. You know, the one with Arnold and that guy. That's what that reminds me of. Assassins. Some Rat Ogres. A Flesh Golem. And a Giant Bat. Dungeons and Dreadnoughts. Be sure to check out the sci-fi video for the more complete of this, but I did want to point out the dragons part of the Dragons and Dreadnoughts tribe, and that's the Elkworm over there on the right. On the left, there's the Iron Might Mech. At least that's what I'm going to call it, because Dungeon Classics has given us some preview artwork. Looks like a scarecrow and some city guards, and I would say that's a ghost, but it might not be. She's coming out of a mirror. Is that Bloody Mary? Oh Lord! And again, these look like kind of like city guard. Dungeon Dog has shown us the Balgura Shaman and some Shaman terrain. And apparently they're going to start doing some busts. This is the Balgura Chief bust, which is, I believe, for August, even though the Chief himself came out in July. They said that they were going to be doing it for a miniature from the previous month. So I think that's how they're doing it. If I am wrong, I apologize. These are Dark Ritual terrain parts. Cultists A version and B version, as well as C version of the Cultists. Epic Miniatures has shown update number 1 is Jungle Untamed. Would probably fit well with Crippled God, wouldn't it? So here's some Jungle Scatter. We have several different models of the Aztec tribe. We're just going to look at a couple for the purposes of preview. Here's a Platform Golem and a Naga Shaman, a Giant Mantis and a Brass Dragon Wormling, Piranha Swarm, Vine Blight and a Platizard, Orangutan, Jungle Warriors. That's a Shroom Doom and Insect Folk Warrior. There's also Insect Folk Elites as well. Why? Because they have extra armor? I'm not sure. Flesh of Gods has given us lots to look at here. This is the Black March. That font is kind of hard to read sometimes. Balloon Flame of the Fortress and the Fell Beast. I would probably call that a Jabberwock, but whatever. This is an Armored Mountain Troll and a Siege Troll. Both are, I would say, equally terrifying. There's an Alpha Warg and a Fortress Whisperer. Dark Banner Bearer and a Sorcerer Wraith King. Black March Elites. Gracker, the Black March Warlord. Krakor, the Beastmaster. And Fortress Wraith. Why is he pointing at me? Orc Blacksmith and Orc Ravager 01. I guess I should have joked and say, why is he pointing at you? And there's some more Orc Ravagers. They got a weird looking head. Yeah, I shouldn't probably say that. That's kind of mean, wasn't it? Bragar, Warden of Light, and Ravel, the Elven Outcast. What did he do wrong? Here's Goran, the Forged Will, and Elira, the Light Bearer. And a couple of busts. Fleshcraft Studios has the Vince Courage Salvagers. There's a Corpse Frame Sentinel, version A, and a Shroud Fin Cutter. Gamescape 3D has doing potholes in the roads this month. In addition to these potholes, there's the sinkhole feature. Or maybe they're not potholes. Maybe I saw sinkhole and thought pothole. I think they're just roads. And here's the sinkhole feature, so you can put what you want underneath there. Some pretty cool artwork and effects that can go into that. And if you really look at the detail there, you can see the FDM lines of where they've printed this terrain. But it still works. Goetia Miniatures is changing their tribe this month. They usually do like 2 or 3 different sets of releases, and I think they're trying to become more streamlined. Now we see Acolyte of Alzir and Lady Etina. These are Kadal Militia, Female Repentance, Alzir Spawns, and a Mashtian Horror. Goonmaster Games has doing War Hamsters and Seafloor Bases. Great Grimoire Games is doing the Last Roar of the Beast. So you get all these models for about $5, I believe, is the price of their tribe. And we'll look at that in more detail again, too, in August. Highlands Miniatures is doing Feral Elves. And here we see these elves on horseback. They can either carry spears or bows. And they're pretty armored. To be feral, they're pretty well armored. They can be on foot as well as arrowmen or archers. Definitely going to keep my eye on this one. I've always been partial to elves. M3 Dicion is doing here, I believe these are griffins with a rider on top of them. Pretty dynamic poses. Hard to accomplish without a base, but they do well. And here you can see a couple of the figures as well. And wow, now that I'm really looking at this, because I was doing this in such a hurry, I'm really curious to see the renders of those models. So there are definitely some sci-fi models there. That is a very interesting model in the middle there. I'm curious to see that. Labyrinth Models. We'll have to come back and do this in more detail, folks, but here's, I think, the whole release for August: Empire of Katara. Last Sword Miniatures. I don't see a full preview for August, but there's the Bannerman Phoenix cohort, and for the Adventurer Anglo-Saxon King on horse. Low Level Encounter has given us a roadmap. So in July we got Mechadrons. In August we're going to get the Fae. September Fiends, October Dark Fae, and November to be decided. So apparently the Fae has kind of a Wonderland-ish theme on it. Or maybe that's just me. I see trees with faces and a big cat like that with blank eyes. I just assume it's a Cheshire cat, but I don't know. It might be something else. Mammoth Factory is doing, I think it's called Whisperwood this month. There's Pallbearer of Ithendruin. So right now we're at the concept art stage. We don't have any renders to show you, or at least I don't. There's a Knight of the Ashen Grove, and then what appears to be like a treant or a twig blight, that type of thing. Mammoth Props apparently is going to be doing kitties this month. So you can print off a few of your very own ears to wear. Mantic Vault is going to be doing some fantasy in addition to everything. Definitely more of the Armada side, I would say. But worth checking everything out. If you got the mule in July, you might want to pick up August so you get the upgrade kits for that mule. MOMMiniatures might just earn my patronage this month with dwarves. Here we have some rangers and a command group of rangers. Hammerers and a command group. Dwarf cavalry and a command group. Hunter King and an anvil. NPC Forge is doing the Pelvane Crew Diggers of Resonite. You know, that's an interesting name for made up for a fantasy ore. I like it though. Like resonance. It resonates with me. One Page Rules is giving us a little bit of previews. I did admittedly put these dwarves first in the sci-fi video, but then I realized, oh yeah, the dwarves are a fantasy release, not a science fiction release. Papal 3D has shown us Morador Orcs. Papal's one of those that always secretly surprises me every month when I look at them. I just don't expect it to be that good, but it is. Primal Collectibles is doing Legacy of Blood, and there's the preview artwork. That is, yeah. Probably run my mouth too much. I'm getting tired. It's been a long day. The Printing Goes Ever On is Dead Elves and Prism Spells for the RPG corner, and for the wargaming side we have episode 4, the Elderwood Elves. Why are they wearing masks? Not all of them are, but a lot of them are. Rescale Miniatures has given us some teasers, I suppose. Bastion of Purity Volume 2. I bet it still tries to curl up in his lap at night. That is an impressive dragon. Is that a blue dragon? Or, yeah. RPG Figures is for the fantasy release. Apparently it's a myconid. Mushroom folk. Signum Workshop has given us some preview art. I have a friend she might want to date. Terrain Essentials is going into the mines August 1st. I love the meme that says, 100 years ago, we took the children out of the mines, and now they play Minecraft, and so the children yearn for the mines. Makes you wonder. Threat Factory is doing Oni, Japanese demons. Tiles from the Crypt has some impressive stuff this month. So a few different designs, some scatter terrain, and bookshelves. Love a good bookshelf. And you can put this together in several different ways. Here is one example, and I'm impressed. It's a decent sized library. A lot of things could go on there. Titan Forge Studios is kind of restructuring a little bit this month, if I remember correctly. They have been doing like 2 armies, but it looks like they're doing just one, Draxskull's Menace, which I personally am actually glad to see. I think it's a little less confusing and allows you to back when you want to back. So we'll come back and look at more of these in more detail. But obviously here is one of our leaders, and Draxskull's Menace, apparently, is that like a Frankenstein orc? There's a guy with a saw with a very stupid grin on his face. It might well be, everyone. These are goblins, but they seem to be kind of zombified, and several of them seem to have mushrooms growing out of them. I wonder what's going on here with Draxskull's Menace. Even all the way down to a few that exist as ghosts, I think. For our RPG section of this, you get a Minotaur, some Medusa or Gorgons, and a Hydra. Huh. How Greek of them to do all of that. For the heroes, you get these 3 characters, and these usually come in alternative versions as well. Again, we'll check this out in more detail in a few days, a couple of weeks, or something like that, once we really get into August. Twin Goddess Minis, again, I'm going to do more of a preview when we get into the month, but there is the preview of Twin Goddess Minis. Txarli Factory. We know it's a fantasy release because we see the red skeletons. These really nice elven-ish towers are there. I don't know how much you can get done because that tower looks like it's not much wider than the models are, but obviously these things are not to scale. Ugni Miniatures in August is going back to the Northern Clans, Part 2. Vae Victis Miniatures is our next creator. We just have a few models to look at the moment. Hopefully we'll get some more feedback on what exactly to expect in soon. Here is the Vae Victis for the month of August. Is she? Hold on, I have to pause here, and I know I probably shouldn't, but is she a mermaid, or is she being eaten by that fish? I think she's being eaten by a fish, because that thing has eyes on its side. Okay, I assumed it was a mermaid at first. White Werewolf Tavern is doing Cursed Desert Sands. Here's the Sphinx Daughters of Saqqara. Here's Kepra of the Hollow Court. I guess they brought her cats with her. They did do that, of course. Here's Saqqara the Lion Mother. And Anhotek, Jackal of the Black Gate. World Forge Miniatures is going to be looking at the Shadowdale Laboratory in August. There's experiment boards and laser sets and test tubes and surgery sets and laboratory walls and all sorts of stuff to check out in the month of August. Well, folks, I'm going to stop the video there. This is the most previews that I have. I look forward to seeing more of what August brings us all. Thanks for watching.